Good morning. It is Saturday morning and the boatyard is quiet. We are checking out the damage a little more closely and digging out our spare props from down in one of the storage areas. We now see a slice in the hull that must be from the blade that broke off the prop, and we will need to add that to the list of repairs that keeps growing. We are not really seeing any other scratches or marks along the hull. That is a good thing. Our hope is that having spare props will speed things up. So we are setting the props out where the guys can find them Monday morning. Prior to our submerged object impact, our planned route was to go from Fairhope to Lulu's in Orange Beach, then from Lulu's to the Wharf in Orange Beach. The Wharf is a cool place with several shops and restaurants and a recommended stop on the loop. Dreamer is at the Wharf tonight, and we have decided to join our friends Scott and Lauren there to at least pretend that we are still on the loop. We have made it down to the Wharf. We were hoping that we would come here by boat, but the house we're renting is literally within walking distance, but we took a little ride over here and we're just waiting for Scott and Lauren to come up and join us, and at least we get to experience the Wharf with our loop friends and see what it's all about. So we made it to the Wharf.
Yes, it's huge.
And it's dog friendly, so we have this guy with us.
In the morning, Dreamer will move on. We will stay behind in Orange Beach while Andromeda gets repaired. We had a great evening, and Ollie and Sully enjoyed themselves too. Little did we know how long it would be before we were all together again.
Days turn into weeks. We are settling into Orange Beach, Alabama, and our new surroundings. We are enjoying our sunset walks on the beach, and there's a great state park with tons of trails. We have made some new friends and are enjoying the sights. But work on Andromeda seems to be moving slow, really slow. We have had a survey completed by our insurance company, and the yard has done some disassembly and some discovery. But it is hard to get straight answers. We are not even sure who is running our project, if anyone, and it is hard to get a solid plan or any kind of real timeline. We are doing our best to stay busy and stay positive, but frustration is setting in.
We're sitting here in Orange Beach. We're at this dog-friendly park we found. It's about, I think, 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks since the actual incident. That morning, we were scheduled to do a kind of a longer day. We were trying to get from Bobby's Fish Camp down to Mobile Bay so we could get all the way to Fairhope. So we left early that morning. Everything else was normal. The morning walk went smooth. The sun came up. I was driving, which was at that point in the trip was pretty normal for us, because in the beginning it was 90% Bob and I would just take over for a little bit here and there. But as we continued to progress, I was getting more and more comfortable on the boat, and he was downstairs actually, getting some work done and then getting ready for the day because we left so early. So that was not uncommon. We had our systems.
I had just finished up some morning work downstairs. I had sort of converted the salon into a home office, and we were really kind of starting to hit a groove where I could go downstairs, get some work done in the morning. Kathy could pilot the boat, and of course we did have our signal where she'd stomp on the floor if she needed me, and I could run upstairs, or she'd text me or call me. And just kind of remember feeling accomplished, like got a few things done, crossed a few things off the list, and was just about ready to kind of get cleaned up and head up to the helm and give her a break from piloting.
I was following our friends, our buddy boat Dreamer. We were going a little bit faster than normal than we do on a pass on a barge. We're probably going about 8, so it wasn't that crazy. You could see all the trees and stuff that all along the river that had fallen and were just floating, or we knew not to get too close to the shore anyway, so I wasn't. I'm always nervous passing a barge, but I was plenty of room between them, plenty of room from the shore. Scott was straight ahead of me, and instantly it just felt like this, just like I hit something that stopped us. It lurched forward, it janked back, which made the whole boat feel like it went up, and then it cocked and kind of then went back down, and then we were engaged and going towards the shore. So it happened so fast. I was steering the boat and I wasn't close enough to hit shore or anything, but it shifted the boat. So that's what made the heading look different. And that's when Bob came up and saw that we were temporarily aiming for the shore, even though it quickly, I think that's when now we know it broke the propeller off. I think that's when it disengaged from the log and then shifted us that way.
And I remember just hearing, I can't even describe the noise. To me, it sounded like metal scraping on rocks and just garbage cans full of boulders falling down the stairs. I don't even know how to describe it. I do remember the boat lurching up forward, and then it felt like it went sideways, and it was just a total panic. I remember one of the first things I did was to see which engines were still going, and I remember the grinding sound. It was just a horrible, horrible grinding, shaking when we engaged the port engine.
We were able to stop. We were in communication with the barge. They were asking if we were okay, and we told them we hit something. Bob was there. He came up and kind of took over, and we were trying to figure out what was going on with the engines.
I was in a panic. I know Kathy was in a panic. Did my best to stay cool in a horrible situation and try and regain control of the situation. That's what you have to do. You got to look out for the crew and look out for the vessel. And are we sinking? Are we taking on water? Are we going to hit another boat? We had to instantaneously resolve all those issues.
When Bob first came up, it was hectic, and he was trying to figure out what was wrong with the engines and testing different things out. And the whole boat was, whoa, 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 whoa. It was just sounds I'd never heard on a boat, and hope to never hear again. But basically, Bob was able to isolate that it was the port engine and figured out what speed we could go on, still with the starboard and a little bit of the port, so we could still be engaged and going forward, because we were basically in the middle of nowhere.
And we were able to get the starboard engine engaged. Under full power, it would only go up to about 1,700 RPMs, where I imagine there's some kind of governor that won't let you go any further so you don't blow up one engine. And we were actually able to engage the port engine to just over idle speed. So the port engine, with only 3 blades left, was pushing us home. at a very low RPM, but it was at least moving us forward. So we were able to maintain about 11 knots, and I don't remember, but it probably felt like an hour before we could even speak. Not that we were mad at each other or upset, it's just we were in shock. We were easily hundreds of miles in all direction from any kind of legit help. There was a lot of commercial traffic, obviously, fisherman traffic, but that stretch of the river is just in a national forest, no man's land, and we still had 8 hours ahead of us, and we had to beat a storm, and we had to beat it getting dark, making it through Mobile Bay to our port. So I remember just being a sickening feeling, getting the boat up to 11 knots, and knowing that we had no choice other than to just trickle forward at 11 knots. Thinking back now, I just remember that horrible feeling. It's like just being trapped or whatever. You just had to put your head down and not think about it and just go. Every inch closer was important. If the boat shut down and we drifted ashore or had to anchor, we were literally hours and hours from a towboat or anybody being able to help us. And I remember the sense of relief getting to Mobile Bay.
And then the Coast Guard came on, and then that got really scary because some of the terms that they were using are the right terms, but at that point, you don't want to think of yourself as a disabled vehicle and a vessel, and how many life jackets do you have on board, and who's on how many, people, and all that stuff. So they were, the good part about that is they were ready to assist at any point. We felt like that the whole time, that if we needed help, we could have called a towboat. We could have, there was options we had, but we really wanted to make it to Fairhope to get to safety, because to get to be able to be at a marina and dock.
I remember the sense of relief when we got to Fairhope. And it's a memory we'll have. It's one of those things that we can explain to you on film, but we say this a lot on our trip, and there's just going to be stories that are just, her and I will have those memories and have them to share together, but never be able to fully explain how it felt that day.
We have been in Orange Beach now for about 3, maybe going on 4 weeks now. We are very blessed that this is where we were able to get to. We were able to go through the Gulf, get here, hobbled in on one engine, but made it. And so far, everybody couldn't have been nicer. The people at Saunders at the Boatyard just have been so helpful. They all seem to really understand the urgency. They understand that we're living on the boat and that we are having to, have a rental, rent a car, we have a dog. So basically kind of got uprooted pretty abruptly. It's even the people we've met. We've been to some of the bars, the restaurants. Obviously, we're trying to make the best of it, the lemonade thing, and we are lucky to be here. Met some people that have, just kind of extended, sailing opportunities, art fairs going on, and they're telling us all this stuff and trying to, just be supportive. And
well, we are about on our 3rd or 4th week of being in Orange Beach, and we've said it a million times. We probably say it a couple times a day, that how lucky are we that we made it all the way to Fairhope. We were with such great friends that stood by us and got us into Fairhope, and that we were able to find a great reputable marine center to take care of us, and that we were able to still pilot our boat from Fairhope all the way through Mobile Bay. We actually went out in the Gulf and came in the Perdido Inlet into Orange Beach to put Andromeda on the hard. So we kind of looked at it 2 ways, like, this sucks, I can't believe we have to do this, but man, what a boat. She doesn't owe us anything. She got us out of a horrible situation, got us into safe harbor by the skin of our teeth, and 3 days later she powered us through Mobile Bay out across the Gulf to where we needed to take her to get her fixed. So we're in Gulf Shores, Alabama, Orange Beach, Alabama, and we've met some great people. There's been some people to help us. We feel very fortunate. It's a beautiful area, get out and walk and exercise every day and take Ollie out. And it's just a real peaceful setting. It's their off season here, which has been great. So everything's kind of slow. The restaurants are empty. The docks, the piers are empty. And it's just been an enjoyable time to kind of reflect. But in that reflection, as much as we try and stay positive, there's times when your mind does what minds do. And I have thought, I know, why us? Or, oh man, where would we be if this didn't happen? And am I trapped here? Is this ever going to get fixed? And another really big, intense problem or thing we've had to deal with is the first couple of weeks we were here, we had no idea if they were going to total Andromeda, if the cost of the repairs was going to be too much and insurance wouldn't help us, and she was going to the scrapyard. And if you followed us along long enough, you know the love we put into that boat, and it was heartbreaking. It was almost like losing a member of the family. Here we are a couple weeks from before Christmas, and we've got semi-approval to move forward, but what scares us still is that there's really, any time we dig a little further into the transmission or dig a little more into the engine, it could reach a point where the insurance company says, that's it, that's too much. And so we really don't have the closure on that we wanted. And I think that is adding a little bit of a cloud over a situation that we're trying to make the best of, is that we feel like it's going to be put back together. We feel like in just a few short weeks, we're going to be back down here and continue on and catch up with all of our friends on the loop and see the things we wanted to see and make it to the Bahamas like we planned. But there's this little inkling of, we hope it goes okay. Please don't let there be something wrong that we can't afford, or that the insurance won't cover, or that's just not worth fixing on a 20-year-old boat. So that's a little bit of our Orange Beach story and our anxiety as we sort of get close to Christmas. And we are just a few days from packing up and heading north, and it's good. There's people we love back home that it's time to go see and spend some time with. We miss everyone very much, and it's time to head home, sort of regroup a little bit, let these boys at the Boatyard do what they have to do.
I'm excited to go home. We were planning on going home anyway, so it's not a coming home with our tail between our legs type of moment. We're just riding out, I guess, the storm, and we're making the best of it, and we're in a good spot. We're not complaining. We've learned so much, and I think Bob and I have talked, and I think part of it for me anyway is we've just gotten so comfortable and just started to really get in a groove, and then all of a sudden, just like that, it stopped, and that's a little hard to swallow. But we've talked to each other, and we also know that we've been through some of the worst stuff, and we're still smiling, and we're gonna get through it, and we're anxious to go down the coast of Florida, and our buddy boat friends, they've already are ahead of us, and they're seeing manatees, and I can't wait. That's one of my bucket lists on the trip, was to see the manatees, so it's coming.
We're planning on coming back down here in just 3 or 4 weeks and putting that boat in the water and heading on down Florida and around the Keys and keeping on. We're keeping our chin up. We're keeping positive attitude about the whole thing, keeping our fingers crossed, and hoping for the best. We know it'll work out one way or the other. Being on the water is in our blood. Finishing this trip or continuing on this journey is in our soul. And however it shakes out, whatever happens in the next 3 or 4 weeks, all the apprehension and all the nerves, we're still excited to see what comes next. And I think that's the best part about this whole journey.
And I think with everything that we've been through, especially with me driving, he could not have been cooler. Like he said, we did have that about an hour-ish, maybe a couple hours of not much speaking, or maybe a little snip here and there, but it it was just the stress and the tension.
I think it was nerves more than anger, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was the situation. It wasn't me or him. And luckily, thankfully, every single person we've talked to because for me, I feel horrible because I'm the one that was freaking driving. So it's just an extra.
It would have happened to whoever was driving.
That's what every single person has said that I did. So it made me feel a lot better. But unless you've ever been in that situation, which I haven't, I mean, that's just what you're naturally going to feel. And it was a miserable. It still is a miserable feeling to know that you were the one that was driving. But
when you think back on that day, it was just the dark feeling of that day is incredible.
Yeah. But I think the other good thing, because the joke before we left was, are you still going to be married when you're done? It was a little joke between some friends.
Everyone asked that.
And family. But I do think, and me and Bob and I have both talked about it since, that I think this has made us even stronger and more determined, because I think we were both feeling like, yes, we can do this. This is hard. This is a lot more work than, it's just not margaritas and freaking dolphins. There's a lot of work that you do all day, and it's hard and it's challenging and it's exciting, but we can do it. And I think that was the cool part about one of the silver linings of this, is that we hit bottom, but we still both reached for the top. We knew that we have two choices, and we both chose the same direction. So I think that's good.
We for sure hit bottom, physically,
literally
and metaphorically.
Right.
And we're both excited to see what happens. We want it to be Andromeda, and we're planning on it being Andromeda. Should the worst case scenario happens, we'll continue this journey one way or the other.
Yes.
We're taking our last few loads of stuff back from the rental to Andromeda, and picking up a few things at the boat that we were going to bring back to Michigan.
Including the prop.
Including the prop, which is our keepsake souvenir. So we're feeling the need to wrap this up here and head back home for the holidays and see our friends and family, and it's just time. We are down at the boat last day or so here in Orange Beach, and we're bringing a bunch of stuff back to the boat, trying to sort out what we're going to take home for the holidays. And I'll give you a quick update of where the repairs are so far. We obviously have to fix the engine mounts, and that is going to require blocking up the engine, supporting it, the transmission and the front, so that they can get to the fiberglass work on this stringer. Not 100% sure yet if it's wood or if it's just a beefed up fiberglass structure, but they're going to have to support the engine to pull that engine mount off and repair that fiberglass work. And the same is true over here on the outboard side. You can see that mount is broken. The fiberglass underneath that mount does not appear to be as mushed up, so We're going to want to inspect it, of course, but what needs to be done over there is TBD. Moving up front, this engine mount looks to be okay. There's not many cracks or stresses on it, but you can see, oh, it's hard to get on the camera, but this area was compressed. This area of the stringer has been compressed. The fiberglass is going to need to be built back up or reinforced, and it's basically the same way on the other side. It's just hard to get to, but the stringer, the mount appears to be okay, but the stringer was definitely compressed with whatever forces took place that day. So all four mounts are, well, the two rear mounts for sure need to be replaced. When these come out, we'd like to inspect them, but these stringers definitely need some work. Moving aft in the engine room, we were lucky to find an inspection port underneath one of the heat pumps to get to the top of the strut that holds the shaft. Let me try and get the light right. But in here, we did find when the strut was impacted, it cracked the fiberglass around the area. So those 8 bolts are what hold the strut in, and that fiberglass was compromised and will need to be repaired. So moving further back, aft in the engine room, that's where the rudder box would be, and the steering mechanism that goes across, and then over here where the mount that held the rudder in place there destroyed the fiberglass, ripped the mount right forward in the fiberglass, and so all that fiberglass will need to be repaired over there. So that's progress inside the engine room. Progress under the boat. You can see the rudder is out, and definitely looking up at the top, it's bent. You can see the shaft has got a bend to it. This is the rudder box underneath the boat, but it's easier to see here how that was bent backwards. There's the other rudder, and you can see it's pretty straight up and down. This would have been towards the back. This would have been towards the back. Whatever we impacted in this direction bent that section backwards. So it's pretty tweaked. That's where we were taking on some water, right here in this crack. So this whole piece needs to be replaced. You can see the shaft is out, and they've got the strut here supported because those bolts are all undone, and they're ready to drop the strut down and put a new one on. Here is the opening for the rudder box. Gonna need some fiberglass repair, but not nearly as bad as we thought, which is good news. A little crack here, maybe just in the surface, but of this area, this piece appears to have taken the brunt of the damage. Just to note, this area up here, this is where the prop would be, and when one of the blades broke off of that prop, it must have went up into the fiberglass and sliced the bottom of the boat. It did not go all the way through, but that's a pretty deep cut from that propeller on that chine. So for comparison's sake, this is the starboard side. You can see the shaft goes in. There's the shaft anode and the strut. This shaft has been checked and mic'd, so it is not bent and not cracked. That strut does not appear to have taken an impact, and you can see that the starboard rudder is basically straight up and down, about as 90 degrees to the boat as you can get. And that's where you can see the shaft has of the rudder, of the port rudder, has a bend to it. That's where the rudder box is bent. And again, so that's what everything should look like. It was in good shape and aligned. So, are we packing up to get back underway?
No.
We're just packing up the stuff to get out of our rental and lock up the boat and leave it for Christmas. So we're pretending like
We're going.
or pretend like we're going when we get back.
We're provisioning.
We're provisioning. It's just, we planned on doing this anyway. We were leaving the boat for a few weeks to go home for the holidays, and nothing's changed other than if you look out the back, we are stuck on the hard and under repair. So
There's a palm tree though.
there is a palm tree. That's a plus. Well, that's that for the time being. We have loaded everything onto Andromeda from our rental house here in Orange Beach, and tomorrow morning we head north, so we won't see her for a few weeks. Good news is a few of the guys here at the Boatyard are working hard away on a Sunday. These are good guys down here, and we know she's in good hands, but we were going to have to leave her at Christmas anyway.
Right, the same time frame. So
Same time frame, same program. She'd have been on the hard somewhere for a few weeks for Christmas, but this just hits a little different, and we're just fingers crossed that there's no huge problems when they dig into her, and fingers crossed that when we get back down here after New Year's, we can, get back on her, or pretty close to it, hop back on and keep on heading south. So goodbye for a few weeks, Andromeda. We love you, and Merry Christmas.
And one more note, I believe Orange Beach here, this being in this spot at this time, was not at all what we planned at all. And it hurts, and it's not what we wanted. But I feel like that we were supposed to be here. That everybody always says that, it's just about the journey and all that good stuff, and I believe it. But I don't know, all of a sudden being here, we've met some cool people. We've kind of changed a little bit of what we think of the trip and what our focuses maybe should be, and what kind of towns we want to stop in, and what kind of towns we like and don't like, and because the towns are all about the people, and I don't know, we feel like I feel like this Orange Beach might have been a blessing in disguise, and we didn't even know it.
I kind of feel that way too.
That evening, we had an impromptu going-away party for us and for our port prop. We met up with our friends, Mel and Harold, from Back Bay Sailing at the Undertow Bar in Orange Beach. Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Fireball!
She made you do it, dude.
It was great to share a few laughs with such great people and to forget about boat projects, even if only for a moment.
morning. We are pulling out of Orange Beach, heading north for the holiday season. It's early on a Monday morning and we are about to head north.
Show Molly. We're loaded up.
Loaded up. Some of the rivers from the north end of Mobile Bay on I-10 heading west. Looking for a prop, and have our prop washed up in the weeds. Or our first orange ball should be down the river by now.
Right.
This is the large bridge we limped under with one engine as we entered into Mobile Bay. It's about underneath this bridge that I made the radio call and told them we weren't slowing down for the whole bay.
Get the car ride. Ollie's not really quite sure yet. He's like, first you put me in a boat, then you throw me in a rental, and now I'm in a car. Poor Oliver. There's a big freaking tree stump that just gave me the shivers. That's what I think we hit, but it was under the water.